Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. And Max, the first tournament of the year, the Tournament of Champions, was eventful. Let's just say that. And let's start with the positive, though. And you were right. You got your prediction right. We finally saw Nelly Korda win again. Had an incredible round on Saturday, given the weather conditions, which is kind of going to be the focal point of this podcast. But she was great on Saturday in a shortened tournament. How cool is it, I guess, to see her start her season this way?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to talk about this week without at least alluding to what ended up happening and what the real stories of the week are. It the LPGA should love this that Nelly won right off the bat. In theory, this should be the best possible result for them as she breaks a long drought. It's kind of incredible. I think it's probably because of TGL, but when I was watching ESPN this week, like even on the bottom ticker, like when Nelly was playing really well, it would show like, oh, her score for the day and whatever. And that's not something that I see very often on like the ESPN ticker is LPGA unless it's majors. And so this is like a big news story. It should be in sports. Unfortunately, it's being overshadowed a lot. But I do just want to highlight Nelly's final round where she just was clicking in all facets of the game. She hit 10 out of 14 fairways, 14 out of 18 greens, only had 25 putts. Now she did have a hit in, so that takes some putts off. I thought the putting stroke looked really, really good this week. Only 87 for the week and 3 rounds. If she can keep that average to around 30 putts per round, she's going to win golf tournaments. And so really, really impressive, especially on Saturday, but she played really well on Thursday too. So even though she didn't catch the worst of the conditions on Saturday, still a really impressive round.
All right, let's get to it now. It was quite the weather experience down there. You were down there. It was not normal for Orlando, and they ended up shortening it. From what we can tell, it was a player-driven decision.
Possibly, and this is going to bring me into. I think the LPGA made two major, major mistakes this week. And not necessarily canceling at 54 holes. I kind of, from somebody who was there, that's the vibe that I got. I think I messaged you pretty early in the day saying that I think they're going to just cut this to 54 holes and declare Nelly the winner. I
Yeah,
think
you were saying that on Saturday,
yeah, I
actually.
mean, because Saturday it was very cold, very windy, and it became unplayable. The course sit on Saturday. Like they made the right decision delaying it on Saturday. Probably should have delayed it a little bit earlier than they did. But Sunday, when you got to the course, I can say that I'm a native of Wisconsin. It was cold. It wasn't just cold for Florida. Like it was legitimately very, very cold. It would have been very difficult to play golf in those conditions, especially for players that maybe aren't used to being in cold weather. It could, the LPGA cited that could be a risk of danger if the ground was too hard, if it was so cold, players might have their wrists set at risk of being injured, and that's not a great way to start the season. So I kind of get the decision to maybe cut it. Certainly, I don't think they could have played on Sunday, but the two big issues were communication and preparedness. And that kind of goes into it sounds like it was partially a player decision. They talked they talked to the players, the LPGA did. They took their opinions into effect. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. These are professional athletes, and I think treating them, for lack of a better term, with like little kid gloves maybe isn't the right way to go about it. Uh, but the communication was just so far off all week. I, you know, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know why the celebrity division was allowed to play and the PGA or LPGA players weren't. We didn't know the schedule of events. It kept on getting delayed 1 hour and no conditions were changing. So it was like, okay, well, why didn't you call it 2 hours ago? Like, why didn't you do whatever? Like, so the communication was just all over the place. The communication was bad with the media. I can speak to that. It was bad with spectators. I can speak to that. It was bad toward volunteers. I can speak to that. I can't necessarily speak to what it was like for players, but from all of the interviews that we've heard, it wasn't exactly great with the players either. So that communication is one thing, and then the preparedness is the other. Where, look, I packed for cold weather. I knew it was going to be cold. Everybody knew it was going to be cold. Like by Monday of the week before, we saw the weather forecast, and maybe people didn't believe that it was going to be in the 20s, but that was certainly the forecast. So how were they not more prepared for this situation? Because they said that they weren't prepared to do a Monday finish because the weather was pretty nice on Monday. It was still cold for Orlando, standards, but it was very playable conditions, I think, on Monday. Why weren't they prepared for a Monday finish? Because they knew that Sunday was possibly not going to happen. So those are really the two places that I'm kind of puzzled is their communication and preparedness, which aren't necessarily two places. It'd be one thing if they just made a rash decision, but them seeming so unprepared and lacking communication, I don't think is a great sign for the league.
Yeah,
That was
to
like a
me,
really long rant, but that just to sum it up, I think that they were unprepared and they're poor at communicating it.
what really stood out, and I'm not sure the tweet is still up from her, um, but Annika Sorenstam, the GOAT of women's golf, she posted about how the tournament, they should have played, and how the celebrities said the course conditions were fine. I believe she posted that the celebrities said the course conditions were fine. And yeah, the celebrities aren't the LPGA players. They don't know golf the same way. They're probably out there and they're like, "Oh, this is fine, I've played through worse stuff." But like if the celebrities played that morning, they said it was fine. If the GOAT of professional women's golf said it was fine to play, they may have not been able to fit it in because of darkness and stuff, but like you said, they should have been prepared to go to uh, Monday. And I just think it's disappointing because, yeah, it's great that Nelly won and everything, but that was a stacked leaderboard. It would have been nice to see it come down to, maybe a playoff or something. It's a tournament rigged to be stacked, basically.
Yeah,
And
it's all
it
winners.
yeah, you saw Amy Yang there, close to Nelly at the end, and it's like those are two big stars on the tour, and it would have been nice if Amy Yang would have gotten some more time to, potentially try to chip away at Nelly's lead, and we had gotten the full 72 holes. I don't know what the solution is to this. I mean, it's done now, but like in the future they need to have a better plan for what happens, because even the like every I mean, and I know that it's a cold weather sport, but the NHL had a plan for their outdoor game in Tampa. Like it got too cold for Tampa, and they had to heat the ice to keep it, to like NHL playing conditions. And so they had a plan there, and it went off without a hitch. The LPGA needed to have a plan, and I know that you said there's like updated communication staff, and there's been changes in the LPGA. So I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but I'm, if the goat says they can play, then I'm gonna side with her.
Just to clarify, so we give proper credit, I do believe it was Beth Ann Nichols who was posting, who had just talked with Annika. Beth Ann Nichols obviously does great work at Golf Week, and and I saw her a lot out there. She was one of the people that was most reliable for where she has all those connections. So she was starting to figure out what was happening. And at one point, she reported that Monday finish was a possibility, and then that seemed to be, shut down. But I think there's one thing that sticks out that I read today because I read Commissioner Craig Kessler's interview with Golf.com, I believe it was. And I've been pretty vocal. I like Craig Kessler. I think he's a good fit for the LPGA, and I think they made a good hire there. But and I know that family emergencies could happen. If that's the case, I understand it. But for him not to be on site for the first tournament of the year seemed a little bizarre for me. Like, I'm not saying that he has to attend every week, but you'd think at least the first tournament he would, because he said he was trying to communicate from his home in Dallas what to do. I don't know why he's not on site for the first event of the year.
Yeah, uh, it's a bit odd to me as well. Some more some funnier positive notes from this week though is that I'm going through Beth Ann Nichols' Twitter right now. Very funny Nelly Corda post where she was just digging into Five Guys.
Hmm.
So that was funny.
I
Uh,
believe that's her post-win tradition is Five Guys.
really,
Yeah.
really, that's very interesting because you're a Five Guys hater.
I am not a huge fan of Five Guys.
Yeah. All right. Hall of Fame though. Nelly most likely going to get into the Hall of Fame. They were talking about it on the broadcast how she's, you know, a future Hall of Famer. Now, there's not going to be any sort of debate whether or not she should get in, whether she's going to get left off or anything, because in this sport, there's a qualifying, you got to get to a certain amount of points. So currently she's at 20. She needs to get to 27, and then she will be able to qualify for the Hall of Fame. First off, I like that. And number two, she's gonna do this, right?
Yeah, obviously it's incredibly tough to project LPGA. Just because if you would have asked me 3 years ago, is Jin Young Ko going to be a Hall of Famer, I would have said absolutely, no doubt. But now you're sitting here saying, I don't know, she hasn't won in a couple of years. She's still, I think Jin Young Ko's 7 or 8 points away, and it's like, okay, I don't know, maybe not. So it's so hard to project. You just never know when a player's going to stop winning. But this really, like, I feel like getting to that 20 threshold really uh, it makes it feel like it's imminent. Kind of. It's just feels like an important point for her to get. And I've been kind of a big advocate for changing the rules of the qualification rules, where I think it should either be lowered or you should get more points for other things, because I think it's so hard in modern LPGA to accumulate 27 points. Like, I was like, I don't know. When Lydia did it, I was like, I don't really know who's going to be the next person to do that. Of course, Nelly has kind of popped up to that, but it's so impressive. And she probably won't do it this year, but certainly by the end of next year, I think you would be thinking about it. She has 7 points to go. If she could get a Player of the Year or a Vera Trophy and get a couple wins, who knows? So I think it's a pretty exciting time. She's, other than Gino, I would say, who it's so hard to project that far out for Gino, but those two feel like the ones who really have a chance right now to make it at some point. And so, yeah, it's a big deal for Nelly.
What does she need to do for people that are unfamiliar with the system to get those 7 points? How can she get 7 points?
So how you earn it is you get 1 point for a standard LPGA Tour win. So
Okay.
Nelly got 1 point this week. You get 2 points for a major. You get 1 point for Player of the Year. You get 1 point if you lead the tour in stroke average for a season, and then you get 1 point for an Olympic gold medal. So Nelly has got a Player of the Year. She's got 16 LPGA Tour wins. She's got the two majors, and she of course has the Olympic gold medal. So That's how she's gotten to 20. So if she just won seven more tournaments in her career, she gets into the Hall of Fame. If she wins another major and five more tournaments, she gets into the Hall of Fame. So those are kind of the different ways that she can get there. Obviously, the easiest way is to win a major or two, and it's pretty much locked up then. But it's
Yeah.
also crazy to say she could win two more majors and not be a Hall of Famer in theory. Like she could
Yeah.
be a four-time major champion and not be a Hall of Famer, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think that she'll get it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's this year. I mean, that's not unattainable,
It
especially if
isn't.
she gets a couple of major wins there. Two major wins and three non-major wins, and that's it. That she's in there.
I
So
think the one thing that stands in her way a little bit this season is she has talked about playing a little bit of a reduced schedule. So we might only see her, 15, 16 times. If she were to win five tournaments, that'd be probably a third of the tournaments she's played in. Now, she's done that before. She did that in 2024. And 2021, she was pretty close to that number. So when she's at her best, she can win at that rate. But I do feel like by the end of 2027, we'll be talking about her as a Hall of Famer now.
yeah, and I mean, I think she would have to win a couple majors this year to get in. I think,
She'd have to win two majors for sure to get it this year, I think, because that would put her
yeah,
at 24. If she wins two majors, you assume Player of the Year comes with it, so that's 25. So there's only probably two more tournaments she has to win.
yeah. So she could win four times this year, including two majors, and then get that Player of the Year, and there you go. She's there at 27 and gets in. So that'll be one of the more intriguing storylines to follow this year. I did want to circle back real quick because I did find the tweet. This was what I was referencing, not an Annika tweet. Uh, this is from Beth Ann Nichols. Just talked to Annika after she finished playing the back nine. Celebrities reduced to 9 holes for round four. She said it's quote unquote very playable and doesn't understand why the LPGA pros aren't playing. So that was the tweet I was referencing, not a post itself from Monica. I got that mixed up.
And again, though, it's like that is the thing is she didn't understand why they were playing. Now, I can see why they didn't play, but we've never gotten confirmation on the reason for it. Where the reason for the celebrities playing and the LPGA players not playing. We haven't got. They said four different things at some points where it was like, oh, conditions were dangerous, conditions weren't optimal for competition, or the wind was too heavy. Oh, there was ice on the course still. It's like gave like six different reasons. Whenever you have to make like four different clarifying statements, you know that you've messed up.
Yeah, for sure. And, hopefully this isn't an issue again, because, we've got the Asian swing coming up here, and then, hopefully we'll be into warmer weather once golf comes
Yeah.
back, or once the LPGA comes back to the United States, and this
And
doesn't have
again,
to be an issue.
yeah, and this was a freak thing. Like this wasn't like, oh, it's 50 degrees in Orlando. Like it was when I got to the course, the feels like temperature was 17.
Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
I mean, the whole East Coast has been like the conditions have been so weird on the East Coast. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been exceptionally cold, exceptionally snowy in some areas. So, this was just kind of trickle down from that. And, you know, I don't know what they should do moving forward for this, but I think they should just have a contingency plan just because it is in the winter and you can't just guarantee that Orlando's going to be nice. So I think that they just have to have a contingency plan of, okay, hey, we're going to build in an extra day that we can move this to Monday and have that already planned out and everything.
And just in general, like I hope they learned a lot from this. Obviously, now you got a couple weeks off until they go in the Asian swing. The Asian swing tournaments are a little goofy. They're run a little differently, but by the time they land back in the United States in like a month and a half, they need to have a plan for what to do. Because Daniel Kang, who wasn't in the field, posted about it, where it was like, as she said, that it always seems to be the last case resort for PGA Tour, but it always seems to be like the first option for LPGA Tour is to shorten it to 54 holes. I mean, we saw last year the Arkansas tournament was shortened, and the one in Japan was shortened as well. So we had two shortened tournaments last year. Now we have one just to start the year. Like they need to figure out a better way to get playing 72 holes. And I know they don't have the cachet or the power that the PGA Tour has. Some courses may not allow you to go out back out on Monday. Like I don't know. But it seems like here it was an option. And so it's just really confusing why they didn't do it.
Yeah, I don't, I think the LPGA has enough cachet to where they should be able to tell, a local golf course, hey, these are our this is our week, basically.
Yeah.
Say that they start practice rounds on Monday, and then, you know, we're gonna have an extra contingency day built open. And hey, if we're not here, sure, why not? Open the course back up, let people start playing. But if we are, then we're gonna keep playing because this is a good thing for your course. This is a good thing for us. If you have issues with this, then too bad. Like I don't know. I feel like the LPGA should have enough cachet to not have to not have a course dictating what they do or don't do. And again, we don't know if this is the case. It's just again we're throwing out some
Yeah.
theories here as to why
I
this
just want
might
to
have happened.
I do want to address the Hanukkah. This is like such a disorganized whatever because it feels like there's like so many things that like I've thought about over the last couple days thinking about this tournament, and it's like trying to remember all of them. Another thing to remember about the Annika quote also is she is a member at Lake Nona, probably knows the greenskeepers, probably knows the staff there, probably wouldn't want to throw anyone under the bus.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she was lying about the conditions. I'm not saying she was whatever, but just a reminder that that is her home course. She's probably not going to talk too bad about the conditioning of it. So take of that what you will. I,
Yeah.
I'm not projecting onto her at all. I watched it a little bit out there. Nasa Hataoka was in the first group that went off when they restarted the third round late Sunday afternoon, and she putted her ball off the green on 17. Like the same issue that was happening on Saturday was happening right away on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
So I'm from what I observed, it would have been very difficult. It was playing very firm and hard. The question is, they're professional athletes. Should they be playing in that? Probably, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's just there's so many mixed feelings about this week, which shouldn't be the case when the biggest star on tour goes out and breaks a long winless drought. Like it should be a celebration, not questioning everything that happened throughout the week.
Yeah. We that's I mean the biggest topic of this podcast has been
We
what
talked about
happened.
Nelly Korda played incredible. She played one of the best rounds of her career, and we talked about it for like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
and
that,
it's just not this was a rough start to the season by the
yeah.
LPGA.
And a rough start to kind of what I think we've all kind of felt was a new era with Craig Kessler and better TV times. And you just looked, NBC gave 2 hours of coverage for the LPGA this week, and no golf was played during it. Like, do you think you're going to get NBC coverage the next time? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
that
there's so many messy things this week.
yeah, that was rough. Um Overall though, like how was the turnout given the circumstances and was it a lively atmosphere at all or was this just was everybody just cold?
Everybody was cold, but I thought it was a very fun environment there. It's kind of a different tournament. It's a little bit looser. The celebrities definitely add to that. But I was kind of shocked by the turnout on Sunday. Like there was a lot of people there, and there was a lot of people there who sat through all those delays. And so because I thought nobody was going to come. I'm like, it's like 16 degrees in Orlando. Who the heck is coming to this? There was a decent amount of people. Like I was pretty surprised. So. It's a good tournament. I can't wait to go back next year. I'm certainly planning on it because I thought it was very fun. And so, yeah, I enjoyed this tournament. I'd recommend it for people because the celebrities are in great moods too. They're having fun with the crowd. It's pretty cool.
What was your favorite celebrity moment from the weekend? And I know you had a celebrity encounter
I
that I also
did.
want you to share.
I'm not gonna reveal what he said because you can kind of guess that it wasn't. You can guess that it's not something to say on the podcast. I'm going to keep it between me and him, but I did get the opportunity. I was standing out by a green watching a group that included Larry the Cable Guy, and he came up to me and started talking to me. Gonna leave it at that. But it was very, very fun. It was interesting. It was a little surreal to hear Mater's voice just like right there in person.
So he
So
was in character
yeah, he was in character. He was in
because
character when he talked to me because he
because
he does not have that accent in real life. I
yes,
mean, if you don't
if you
know,
don't
but
yeah, if you don't know about Larry the Cable Guy, he plays a character.
yeah, no,
So
he was in character when he was talking to me. So yeah,
maybe he's just adopted that as his personality now.
that was a weird one. Yeah, it was great. It was great to see J.R. Smith out there. He
Had a
hit a
shirt on.
Yeah, he had a shirt on. He had a pretty bad drive on a hole where I was watching him, and he kept his composure and then topped one off the tee. His second because he hit one out of bounds and then he topped one. So it
Division 1
wasn't.
golfer right there.
He's not a bad golfer. His score was pretty good. He just had a rough hole there. He had some bad putting moments too. But I love J.R. Smith. So
You said Roger Clemens was a unit as well.
yes, and it seemed like I don't know. Like you always think like Roger Clemens has kind of like a prickly kind of reputation, but he seemed like he was like pretty good guy. Like he was like interacting with all the volunteers and the fans, and like he was certainly like he was talking to the players he was playing with. Like, yeah, he seemed like he was a pretty cool guy. I don't.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him as a person, not as, like a obviously there's the whole like steroids and all that scandal that went on with him, but I've heard he's definitely not Barry Bonds as
Yeah,
far
no,
as like
he seemed
personality.
he seemed pretty friendly. I don't know. I don't know if he is or not, but
All right, we have a few week break here from the LPGA. Uh, Obviously, if you're a golf fan, you'll be watching the WM Phoenix Open this weekend. That'll be crazy on the PGA side, and if you're into TGL, that's continuing to roll on. But are you going to have up on the site? While this is kind of a another little like break from golf for on the women's side.
yeah, there's some pretty big events over on the LET that I'll have some coverage of. I believe they're playing in Saudi Arabia in the next couple weeks. They've got a pretty loaded field there. I believe they're playing in Australia in a couple weeks, and a lot of the prominent Australians. Kind of one of the reason that they weren't present at the Tournament of Champions is they're all playing in that event. So I believe Hannah Green, Grace Kim, Minji Lee are all playing in that. So that should have a pretty good field also. So there's some stuff still going on the LET. Also on the site, I have a lot of stuff from this week, obviously, including I just put up today a ranking of all 16 of Nelly Corda's LPGA Tour events based by how well she played in them. So that if you want to go kind of search through memory lane, it's kind of amazing. Nelly doesn't, for how many wins she does them a lot in a pretty sloppy way. I think we've talked about that before, where it's like and she's been open about it. She makes it harder than it needs to be. But it's like really when you look at it, it's like wow. So it's kind of a fun little thing to go back and look at. In her first ever win on the LPGA Tour, a 15-year-old Gino Tidikun finished top 40.
Of course she did.
That was just a fun little tidbit that I got when I was looking through the leaderboards on that.
Of course she did. Of
Yeah,
course she did. That doesn't surprise me because again, I had it in my notes last week when we did our season preview predictions. Gino finally gets a major win and she's 22. So again, she feels like she's been out there for a while, even though she's still, quite a bit younger than me.
yeah.
Uh, so
7 years younger than me. Like
yeah, 5 years
crazy.
younger than me. So almost 6 years younger than me. So uh, that doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, go check that out on forall.com. That's FORE-ALL.com. And we will be back either next week or the week after, depending on, what we decide as far as, talking LET. So just stay tuned and we'll get something out though sooner rather than later.